15 comedians show up, and we basically did open mic for the first month or month and a half, every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Right.
Just an ongoing show.
And then over the years, that open mic produced Dave Coulier,
Tim Allen, Dave Coulier, Joe Napodi. Yeah, it just sort of, it was right around the same time that Make Me Laugh was real popular
on TV.
So every week seemed like I was getting a plug from Gary Shandling, Bob Saget, whomever who was on the show at that time, saying next week I'll be at the Comedy Castle in Michigan. So it was
the rich history.
It worked out real well.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked comedians, because I've been doing a lot of interviews. Who are some of the earliest guys you watched as a comedian, watch comedians that influenced you, to go, wow, that's something I'd like to be involved in?
Well, I come from a family of entertainers, so my parents always used to give me comedy. That's one thing they would ask me, what do you want for Christmas? What do you want for your birthday? I said, a comedy album.
Wow.
So I was influenced by, I loved, early on, I loved Don Rickles, Bob Newhart, Bill Cosby. And then when I could start doing it on my own, I got a little older, George Carlin, Richard Pryor. But then Sam's Jams, which used to be in Ferndale, Steve Milgram had that place, and he knew that early on in the Comedy Castle business market, I've got a ton of old comedy albums. Have you ever heard of Lord Buckley? I went,
wow.
I said, no, I never heard of him. He said, come on down, I've got all this comedy albums, you can pick anybody you want. Well, Lord Buckley was like one of the first beatnik comedians.
Right.
Predating Lenny Bruce and Mort Saul, so back in the late 50s, early 60s. So it was pretty cool. Pretty cool.
When I was younger, I remember one of the first influences I ever had was Flip Wilson.
Yeah.
I had some of his records, and I just loved his style, the way he told stories, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all of that. But I always ask people, and it's funny how it's like even younger comedians are influenced by guys who I thought they would never know who they were.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like Alan King or what? I'm like, wow, really? You?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And a lot of people don't realize one of a huge influence was the Smothers Brothers, and I actually worked with them at a charity event. And I'm reading a book now that talks about all the problems they went through with censorship, with CBS, and I mean, these guys really held their ground when it came to the music and whatever they were putting on. And they had Steve Martin as a writer and Martin Mull. I mean, it was a hell of a show back in the 60s.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You can still buy those on disc and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is I sort of steal this question from other people. If you weren't in this business, what would you like to do?
What would I like to do? There was a time, a long, long time ago, that I always thought I wanted to be a forest ranger.
Really?
Yeah, because I love to read. And I go, all I got to do is just sit up in a tower, read books, and look for fires. But
I thought you were going to talk about how much you love the outdoors and the environment. You're like,
I like to read outdoors.
I like to read.
I got to tell you, I can't even imagine what I mean. I tried to. My wife said you have a hard time working for other people, and so what would you do? She's asked me, what would you do? I said, I don't know, because I like to work for me.
Right.
I mean, I like the fact that I have not control, but I can kind of shape how things move from this base to that base to the next base. So it's hard to say what here I am at 61. I'm trying to figure out what would I do if I ever grew up. I guess be retired.
What trends are you seeing in comedy that some you like, some you don't?
I'm not a big alt comedy fan because that's just saying that I like the fact that we have a 400-seat room, and when 400 people are laughing, or 398, or even 300 of the 400 are laughing. To me, that's great comedy. I think that the fact that, granted, alt comics find their own voice. Patton Oswalt, Brian Posehn, but then there are others that just when I watch them, and I'm going, sort of like you're still doing open mic, but you're getting paid for it. So,
right.
So that's my pet peeve in comedy.
Kind of never learning the craft.
Never learning the craft, right? I mean, Lewis Black said it best. You have to find your voice on stage and then develop that. And as a man who took 20 some odd years to find that voice, and then the last 10, he's really been enjoying the fruits of his labor. You know?
Right.
There's too many people that want to go from the crawl stage to the run stage right away. They don't want to walk, they want to jog. You know?
Right, absolutely. Yeah, what's funny too, it seems like every time my career takes a big leap forward, it's when I kind of go, I don't really give a shit anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to walk that line anymore. And all of a sudden, wow, you're really,
Yeah.
All of a sudden you get noticed for something that you didn't even know you were doing.
Well, it's sort of like when a comedian's out on stage and they're not doing well, and you've got 400 people in the room that are like sharks. They smell the blood.
Right.
So if you don't give a shit, then
there's no blood.
There's no blood. That's right.
I'm just talking. You can laugh if you want.
Yeah, I don't care.
Well, I will say this. I've seen over the years, like you stand in the room and you still laugh at comedians.
Oh yeah.
Which I find amazing. That you've been doing it this long and you still. Because I know comedians that just sit there and go, "That's funny." They don't laugh out loud. They just go, "That's funny." But you actually laugh out loud.
Oh no, I enjoy it.
And you treat everybody the same, whether they're an MC or a headliner, a big shot, whatever. And I've been all over the country, and I've never heard anyone say a bad word about you. So
I have 2 ex-wives.
I've never